It took 6 EMTs, 2 cans of wasp spray, and one very traumatized corgi to extract Karen Dunst from the firewood pile she had stolen from my porch. She was wheeled away on a stretcher like a human beehive, her face swollen beyond recognition, howling incoherently about fire pit aesthetics and property values. I watched from my front porch, sipping hot cocoa with an extra marshmallow as the paramedics struggled to transfer her from the gurney to the ambulance. The swarm still buzzed angrily inside her Subaru Outback, trapped behind the windows like tiny winged revenge spirits ready for round 2. All of this chaos, this beautiful karma, happened because she wanted what she called uniform log symmetry for the neighborhood. My name is Thomas Reic, and I am a retired park ranger with 30 years of experience and a deep fondness for cabin-style living. When I moved to Eagle Crest Heights 18 months ago, I thought I had found the perfect compromise between suburban convenience and the wilderness I loved. It was supposed to be a posh suburb with stunning mountain views and mature oak trees lining the streets. What I did not realize was that the HOA here treated nature itself as a liability that needed to be controlled, managed, and sanitized. I kept to myself mostly, maintaining my property with the same care I had given to the national forests. My front yard featured native plants, a rain garden, and a tasteful stack of split oak beside my covered porch. I used the wood for my indoor fireplace during the cold months. Nothing dramatic or unsafe, just a simple pleasure from a simpler time. Enter Karen Dunst, HOA president, and what I can only describe as an environmental psychopath with a clipboard. Picture Martha Stewart crossed with Stalin, armed with a Pinterest board titled Militant Curb Appeal and a measuring tape she wielded like a weapon. This was a woman who once successfully banned decorative stepping stones from the entire neighborhood because she claimed they evoked chaos and disrupted the visual flow of manicured lawns. She had been president for 3 years when I moved in, running unopposed because everyone was too terrified to challenge her reign of terror. Her husband Gerald worked nights and seemed to exist solely to nod along during her rants about grass height violations. She drove a pristine white Subaru Outback with a bumper sticker that read, "Compliance equals community," which should have been my first warning sign. Karen started her campaign against me slowly with passive-aggressive newsletters that included special sections with titles like, "Is your yard sending the right message to potential buyers?" and "The Hidden Dangers of Natural Landscaping." Then came the inspection notices, always arriving on Friday afternoons when she knew I could not respond until Monday. She would stand at the edge of my property with her tablet, taking photos and making notes while shaking her head dramatically for any neighbors who might be watching. The fake violations started piling up in my mailbox like junk mail from hell. First, it was unsecured log formations that allegedly posed a tripping hazard despite being 15 feet from the sidewalk. Then came complaints about firewood incompatible with neighborhood design language, whatever that meant. My personal favorite was potentially pest-attractive timber installations, as if wood had not existed in nature for millions of years before suburbs were invented. She called my neat stack of seasoned oak a wood pile hazard that could attract termites, rodents, and lower property values. I called it what it was, perfectly normal firewood that countless American homes have stored the exact same way for centuries. One particularly frosty morning in November, I found a bright orange citation taped to the old maple tree in my front yard. Karen had apparently started enforcing rules retroactively, citing an obscure bylaw from 2004 that supposedly banned naturalistic storage aesthetics within view of the street. The fine was $300, due within 10 days, or she would initiate formal proceedings with the HOA board she completely controlled. I paid it to avoid the hassle, thinking that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next week, I woke up to find my entire wood pile had vanished overnight. Not a single log remained. Not even the bark chips that had accumulated underneath over the months. The ground where it had been stacked was swept clean, as if the wood had never existed at all. At first, I thought I was losing my mind, standing there in my bathrobe, staring at the empty space like it might rematerialize if I blinked hard enough. Then I noticed the wheel marks in the frost on my lawn leading from where the wood had been straight down my driveway to the street. Someone had stolen approximately 800 pounds of premium seasoned oak in the middle of the night, and I had a pretty good idea who that someone was. My security camera footage revealed the truth in crystal clear high definition. There was Karen Dunst at 2 in the morning, dressed in all black like a suburban ninja, wheeling a large garden cart up to my porch with the determination of someone on a mission from God himself. She loaded my entire wood pile piece by piece, huffing and puffing with each armload, but never slowing down. She had even brought her own bungee cords to secure the loads, making multiple trips to transfer everything into the back of her Subaru. The level of planning involved was actually impressive in a deeply disturbing way. She had clearly been preparing for this heist for weeks, maybe months. But here's what Karen did not know, could not have known in her single-minded pursuit of neighborhood uniformity. I had just hauled that particular batch of wood from a massive fallen oak in the state park where I still volunteered on weekends. The tree had come down during a summer storm, and I had gotten permission to harvest some of it for personal use. Deep within those logs, nestled in the cozy bark crevices and hollow spots that nature creates, lived a thriving colony of paper wasps. They were dormant now in the cold weather, sleeping peacefully in their wooden fortress. I had not split these logs yet precisely because I knew about the wasps and planned to deal with them carefully once the weather got cold enough to ensure they would not wake up. They were quiet, patient, and waiting for the first warm day to emerge. Karen had just stolen herself a ticking time bomb of winged fury. Day 2 after the theft, Karen hosted what she called a community glamping mixer in her backyard, which was really just an excuse to show off her new fire pit area that she had redesigned for the 4th time this year. 17 neighbors attended out of fear rather than interest, bringing the required upscale appetizers and bottles of wine that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. There were 2 elaborate charcuterie boards that looked like edible art installations and one overly confident golden retriever named Duchess who belonged to the Petersons from 2 houses down. Karen had arranged my stolen wood in a perfect pyramid beside her designer fire pit, each log placed with mathematical precision. She gave a little speech about the importance of source-verified timber, and how she had personally ensured only the highest quality wood for their enjoyment tonight. She lit the fire with great ceremony using one of those long butane lighters. While everyone clapped politely, the flames caught quickly on the dry oak, sending up a pleasant smoke that smelled like autumn and betrayal. The heat from the fire began warming the logs stacked nearby, slowly but surely raising their internal temperature. Deep inside the wood, the dormant wasps began to stir, their biological clocks confused by the unexpected warmth. Within 10 minutes, the first scout emerged, followed by another, then another. By the time anyone noticed, it was already too late. The entire colony had received the wake-up call that spring had arrived early, and they were not happy about the rude awakening. The chaos that followed was like something from a disaster movie filmed in a suburban backyard. Screaming erupted from every direction as guests fled in panic, abandoning their wine glasses and small plates of aged Gouda. Karen stood frozen for a moment, unable to process how her perfect evening had transformed into a nightmare. Then she started flailing with a citronella candle like it was some sort of holy relic that could ward off the angry swarm. The wasps, now fully active and defending their disturbed home, went after everything that moved. The golden retriever ran in circles barking at the air. Gerald dropped the entire charcuterie board while running for the house. Someone fell into the koi pond. It was absolute, beautiful bedlam. In her panic, Karen made the fatal mistake of trying to contain the situation by dumping the remaining logs into her Subaru. Apparently thinking she could quarantine the infestation by sealing it in her car, she threw open the hatch and started hurling wood inside while wasps swarmed around her head. The insects followed their home into the vehicle, immediately claiming it as their new territory. By the time she slammed the hatch shut, dozens of wasps were already inside, and more were finding their way through the ventilation system. Her car had become a mobile wasp nest, and there was nothing she could do about it. When animal control finally arrived 45 minutes later, they took one look at the Subaru and called for backup. They had to fumigate the entire vehicle, which meant drilling holes to insert the fumigation equipment, essentially destroying the interior in the process. Karen stood there screaming about sabotage and deliberate assault with biological weapons. She demanded everyone present sign witness statements claiming I had planted infected wood as a trap. The HOA board members who had attended the party exchanged meaningful looks, and I later heard whispers about an emergency meeting to discuss a vote of no confidence in their current president. The neighborhood Ring camera network lit up like a security grid from a spy movie, with every household reviewing their footage from the night of the theft. The Johnsons had captured her entering my property. They recorded her loading the wood. The new family at the corner house got crystal clear video of her license plate and her face as she drove past their driveway with my stolen property. Within hours, the footage had been compiled into a comprehensive timeline, uploaded to the cloud, and shared with everyone who had a stake in this drama. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. I submitted the complete footage package to 3 different authorities for maximum impact. First, to the HOA Grievance Committee, who suddenly found themselves very interested in presidential misconduct. Then, to the local police, who confirmed that theft of property valued over $500 was indeed a crime, regardless of any HOA disputes. Finally, in a stroke of ironic genius, I sent everything to the National Invasive Species Council. They confirmed that transporting infested wood across county lines, which Karen had done by driving to her mother's house the morning after the theft, violated 3 separate municipal codes regarding pest management and agricultural safety. The legal consequences came down on Karen like a ton of perfectly stacked firewood. She was hit with a $1,500 fine for the pest transportation violations alone. The court mandated she attend a 40-hour pest education seminar spread over 6 weekends, which meant driving to the Agricultural Extension Office at 6 o'clock in the morning every Saturday and Sunday for over a month. But the crown jewel of her humiliation was the court-ordered public apology that had to be printed in the next HOA newsletter under the headline, "I stole firewood and got stung by consequences," which the judge himself had composed with barely concealed amusement. The criminal theft charges carried potential jail time of up to 6 months, but her lawyer negotiated it down to 2 years, probation and $3,000 in restitution to me for the stolen wood and emotional distress. When the judge read the sentence, Karen let out a wail that could be heard in the hallway outside the courtroom. She had to stand there while the judge explained that theft was theft, regardless of whether you were an HOA president or just a common criminal. Her face turned 7 different shades of red as she realized her reign of terror had officially ended with her becoming a convicted criminal with a permanent record that would show up on every background check for the rest of her life.